Ska vi se, jag ska starta igång videon också kanske. Och jag ska inte ha blur my background då.
Jag kan se det mest också.
Ja, om du ska dela så bör du nog.
Eller, shit.
Inte vara skarpt. Hello, Andrea. Can you hear us?
Hello. Yes, I can hear you very well.
Oh, good.
How are you doing?
Fine, we're in the same room. Me and Matthias are in the same room.
Great.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm still in Italy. Sorry
You're
for
in
not
Italy, yeah?
turning on my video, but my internet connection bandwidth is a bit limited. So
are you on some kind of vacation or at home with your parents or?
yeah, so I'm not on vacation, but yeah, we rent a place with the family so that we could all be in the same place with my wife's family.
Yeah.
And because our son is on vacation, so he's spending time with grandparents, uncle, cousins, and yeah.
Nice. Hi, Brad.
Hey, how's everybody?
Hi.
Just fine.
That's good.
How are you?
Very good, thank you. I just got back to Australia a couple of days ago.
Oh, cool. Glad you made it back safely.
Yeah, it was a long trip.
So what time is it now in Australia? Is it 8 o'clock or something?
8 p.m. Yeah.
8 p.m. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So I started putting a couple of things on the agenda for today, but if there are more things that you folks would like to discuss, please add them to the agenda.
My attendance as well.
Can we get started?
I guess so.
All right, so welcome everyone to the CDEvents working group. My HackMD is offline right now. So
Yeah, I see that as well. I try to access, but I can't. I get service temporarily available. So don't reload the screen. Keep it there so we see the agenda.
so once it's back offline, feel free to sign yourself in. Yeah, a couple of things from the for today. I created a community repo and I started setting up some content and basically wanted to have some reviews or comments, what people think about it. So right now I just have like the governance MD is in there. And then it's welcome to the CDEvents community. There is a section about the CDEvent project that is not filled in yet, and then how to get involved. This is basically copied from the document we currently have on the spec. So reach out, a working group. So I put the link to the 2 working group now, links to contributing, and governance information.
Great
I
stuff.
think maybe. Yeah, I think if this looks okay, maybe people can review. I mean, we can remove then the governance MD from the spec repo and point the website community to this repo instead. So I'm happy to do that.
Should we fill in something more in the CDEvents project before we launch it, or maybe that can be done afterwards?
Yes, I can. We can add just a little introduction about what the project is about, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, do you have some ideas? I mean, about what we should have in there?
Well, not any clear ideas, but I would like to help out if I find time for it, of course. So, yeah, it's fine, I guess. So the governance right now, what does it say? Not too much, I'm afraid.
The project has been started by the CDEvents and is currently governed by a few members as SIG, and the governed link points to the.
It's moved from the CDEvents, right? Or
It points to the governance MD in this very same repo.
yeah, but
and
the content there, is it from CDEvents, or have you rewritten it maybe a bit? Or
it's the same one that we used to have in the CDEvents spec repo.
Okay, yeah. Sounds good. Right, so we still call it the bootstrap governance, yeah. We should set up the proper governance. We have that as an action. It sits on me right now, that issue. To set up the long-term governance.
Yes. Yeah, so this work is only for setting up the community repo as a separate one from the spec. So we have a central point for community documentation, including governance. Yeah.
But I guess we can keep it as under construction until we have moved some more things maybe here, or it doesn't really feel that it's done yet. What do you say?
Sure. Sorry. I was thinking to fill in the CDEvent project with some context about the project. And that is the main thing I was thinking of having as under construction, maybe setting up some CI with a linter for the pages. Yeah, or do you see any other thing that we should have in there before we?
No, I guess that's fine. It's okay that it's quite thin from the beginning, and we can add to it continuously and move things here that we see fit. For sure. I think we should probably have something written on where to place issues. I mean, now since we have a community project, we should probably move some of the issues from other repos here, for example. And we should maybe say something about what kind of issues should be in what kind of repo and so on.
Sorry, I was hoping to take notes, but it seems that McEntee is down.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can take notes somewhere else. let me share this instead, and then I will sync on the account once it's back. Okay. Screen share. Cross and then drop in. Yeah, I think with these things we would have this parity to what we have now, but in the new repo. And then we can add more things. I mean, I can imagine like in a community repo, maybe it would be good to things, links to work that we do with other communities as well. So we could have links to the work that we do with the various projects implementing CDEvents or things like that. But that's something that we can add incrementally.
Yeah, of course. So that, yeah, that's good. Great.
Okay. All right. The next thing I wanted to talk about, or at least present, the work that I've been doing on the Go SDK. So let me share. Maybe I should just share my screen, entire screen. It's easier. All right. So I made an initial PR to the SDK Go repo. And the version of the SDK that we have in here, first of all, it's just SDK, so there's no CLI. It currently implements only 3 events, so the pipeline run, started, queued, and finished. But the framework is there, so adding more events should be pretty straightforward. I've added the cloud events binding and also a binding that allows to format an entire event as a JSON string, which is handy because then it allows basically to use the SDK to produce a JSON that can be compared with what is in the spec. And I created some tests where, for instance, I take things like the entire JSON and load it into a CD event and then verify that it matches a CD event that I created separately. But yeah, so this is, I wanted to show the README because it gives an overview of how this is meant to be used. Okay, so this is installation to import, just like that. And basically to use it, there is a new CD event function that can be used from the module. And you need to pass in the type of event that you want to create. And so this creates something, returns an object that is specific to the specific event. But all the different events, they implement the same CD event interface. So there are certain methods like setting subject ID, setting source, which are common to all events. And then there are some that are specific to the specific event. So sending the event looks like this: create the event, set the subject ID, set the source. In this case, the spec says we need a pipeline name and pipeline URL, so which are required. So this must be set. And then to send it, there is this sCloud event helper that returns an object from the Cloud Event SDK, which is the CE. And then from there, the rest of the code is the same that it would be with any cloud event. So it's basically using the Cloud Event SDK to set the sync and set some coughing, and send the event. So things that are missing, I need to document how to receive your first CD event as cloud event. It should be possible with existing code, but maybe I need to add another helper function. And also need to add some validation functions so that, like before we send an event, maybe we could call to validate to make sure that all the mandatory fields are required. Yeah, and I mean, if this approach looks good in general, then I would go ahead and add the other events that we have defined. It should be pretty straightforward. I've included a test for most of the code. There is still some code in the event specific that requires some unit tests. And yeah, so there's like a lot of simple code, like all the getters and setters that are very similar across the different events. So creating a new, if I wanted to create a task run finished.go, I would probably copy one of the existing one and replace things where needed. So another thing that we might want to do, like Ben was mentioning, is to see if this can be, yeah, I think this.
You're breaking up, Andrea. I think you might have a bad connection, or is it? It's quite hard to follow, Andrea. Your voice is breaking up.
Okay.
Now it's
Can you
better.
hear me now?
Yeah, now it's better.
It's better now, yeah.
Was the same as your Andrea?
Yeah, I was struggling as well.
Okay, yeah. So I'm not sure if you can do it. But
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, more hopefully. It's a
Not
bit
really, to be
robotic
honest.
from time
Like,
to time.
yeah, it's almost hard to hear what you're saying. It was only the last few minutes.
Yeah, it was better in the beginning.
Yeah.
On a mobile network or on fiber?
Yeah, I don't know.
You can the code's really easy. The code, like, you can read it what's going on anyway if you want to keep sharing the code.
So, yeah, please go on.
Yeah, it's just that uses bandwidth.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, if you can still hear me, I think that's about it. So if you have some time to look into the SDK, if you want to add some comments, if there is no strong concern, I would merge the PR sooner rather than later, and then continue iterating on it. So we have a usable SDK for Go as well.
Sounds good. I'm thinking about, I think we talked about it sometime, if we should have some kind of common guidelines for all our SDKs. I'm not sure how much of a common look and feel we would like on GitHub, for example, when we describe the SDKs, but I guess for 0.1, they can differ some, that's no problem, but maybe in the long run, we should have some kind of both common documentation, look and feel, and also, of course, the common SDKs themselves, so we support the same content or same types of information. I think we discussed that last time, right? What should be part of it, if we should have the CLI or not, and those things.
Yeah, I think, but I agree on maybe the documentation, look and feel of the repos, but I think what we discussed last time is also that at least the way to consume the SDK should be aligned with what the language specific best standards are. as opposed to strive for having an aligned API across the languages. Because if I'm a Go developer or a Java developer, I have certain expectations when I use an SDK, and they will not be the same in Go or Python.
Of course.
So that's the only.
Okay.
When it comes to the SDK, I know I wrote tests for the old SDK that were never merged. Is there anything there you can reuse?
Possibly. That's a good point. Let me. Well, I need to go and check.
Yeah.
For sure. Let me take a note.
Compatibility works again now. If you haven't seen it, it seems to be up and running again.
Yeah, I put in all the names. Wasn't sure about company names for you, Andrea and Brad, so your names are there, but not company names.
Oh, cool.
You got the PR in the chat now, Andrea, so if you can use it.
Yeah, right. So there are,
I'm
tests.
trying to reload the HackMD, but somehow it looks like my internet is having a really hard time right now. I'm not sure what happened.
Did you document somewhere how to run the tests for your with SDK as well, or is it only usage documentation? Maybe it's self-explanatory.
So I think there is
I guess if we would have a contribution part, maybe in the README as well, some later on.
Yeah, I need to
talk about how to test it and how to.
There are some scripts that.
I think we almost lost you, Andrea. Are you still there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we're here again. Yeah. We hear you.
I am, but I think you cannot hear me.
Not all the time, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. There are some scripts from the old SDK for different targets for building and running tests. And so I will update the script and the documentation. I also wanted to add a CI test, maybe GitHub actions to run the tests. But yeah, so right now to run the test is just a standard. But yeah, I will add the documentation for that.
Yeah, so the GitHub action sounds very good to have also, of course, eventually. But don't hesitate to merge it anyway. I guess you could almost merge this right away if you feel it's complete to some extent. Do we have some kind of main contributor for our SDKs? Should we state something about that? Or, of course, we should have maintainers for each repository.
Okay. Thanks. Well, Ben is not here, of course, because it's not a good time for him to join today. But I was hoping to get him involved in the Sdk, as he is familiar with the SDKs and is happy to contribute. But if anyone would like to do the SDK, to the Go SDK or any of the other SDK, I think we just talk to the author and agree on it. I think we are a small group for now, so.
Okay, yeah. It's a bit hard to follow what you say, Andrea, but I think we got your message.
Okay, can you guys, get? All right. Yeah, I'm really sorry about this. I don't know how to fix my internet. I don't have many options. It used to work fine, so I don't know what's going on.
Can you try to reconnect?
To the Teams meeting, maybe.
The Zoom.
Yeah,
Zoom meeting.
I want to.
If you want, we can also start a huddle in Slack. It takes way less bandwidth than Zoom.
Can we meet in Slack instead? Is that possible nowadays?
Yeah, yeah, you can do it. It's called a huddle, and it works very, very well. You don't have to have good internet. It'll be much better because this recording is. No one wants to watch this recording anymore.
See if Andrea comes back or if what happens, but. Are you there now, Andrea? Or?
I am. I tried to disconnect and reconnect, but I don't know if it made any difference.
Right now it sounds a lot better, but let's see if it stays there. Wait. Are you still there, Andrea? Or?
Okay. Yeah, I am. I was
Yeah.
just looking for if there. Let me try a different option. 1 second. Hello?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, so it looks like it's better now. Hopefully it will stay like that. Okay, sorry about all the pain with this. Try to fix it. So let me see if I can refresh. I can do now. Yeah. So just send the notes. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say the last thing I had for the agenda today. I wanted to review the release plan we have for 0.1 to see how we're doing and if there is anything we can do to to make sure we reach that target sooner rather than later. Can you still hear me and see my screen?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Works fine.
So for the admin part, we have the release announcement, the plan for the governance that we mentioned already, and a short video. And I think maybe this is something that we can work towards when we are almost there, the release announcement, at least. Yeah, I don't have anything special to add on this section.
Yeah, I hope to be able to work on the governance part, but I can't guarantee when it happens, but hopefully sooner rather than later, I hope.
Okay. For the cloud events binding, one pending item is to define the JSON schemas or the schemas, whatever the format. So I had a PR that I started on that, but I need to physically pick it back up. There were some comments, and I basically need to revive that and update it. But I think we have at least agreed on how the content of our events look like from a JSON point of view. So defining the schemas to align to that shouldn't be too hard. And then I think once that's done, I can update the Go SDK as well to populate the data schema field as well. So that's assigned to me, and I still plan to do that. Shouldn't be too much work. Next for the core spec, I think the main, so we have one item which is expand the bucket spec documents, which is a very broad one. It's assigned to me right now, and I've been doing some reformatting of the spec in this context. But yeah, I think that's where we need, there is probably most or the most important work. So I was thinking maybe we can split this up a little bit. I can create some sub items, because this is basically about expanding the data model we have today, make sure we have the right fields, and the scope of this is not fully defined, I feel. So I would expand on this, maybe split it in many issues, and then hopefully we can also find contributors to the different areas. But yeah, so I'm not entirely sure where we stop on this in terms of 0.1. I guess if we have enough fields that can support our use cases, our proof of concepts, then it should be good.
Yeah.
Right. Next one is done. And we have capture key use cases and design decision in the primer document. So this is quite broad as well. I think the use cases are in there already. So we need to add a link to the white paper. Okay, documented changes to the spec should include amendment to the primer document. So we captured design decision as well. So this is a relatively small, I think it's just these two items. Yeah, so if anyone would like to have a go on this one, it'd be great. Then we have clarify usage of source for CDEvents. Yeah, so I think this is still open. It's maybe something we can prepare for one of the upcoming meetings and have a discussion on in one of the meetings. Yeah.
Does
basically
does Cloud Event say anything about how to specify the source of an event on Cloud Events level? What else? See sources there.
Yeah, it does provide some examples. It's pretty open. It must be URI format. So worst case, we could leave it to what Cloud Event says. Yeah, so the format in Cloud Events is URI reference. I thought it would be good to provide some guidance to folks creating CD events on how the source should look like. But we can also agree that this is not something that we need to do or decide in scope for the 0.1.
I guess it could be updated later as well. As Matthias wrote there down there, there's in IFE we have a full object of the source, so it's more, there are more fields than just the URI. So you can see if there's a person behind it and if there's some host name behind it and other things in there. So more properties of the source are possible to provide through an IFE event if you like to. We have something called domain there as well, and what serializer was used to create it and so on. So I'm not sure we need that for the first version, at least, of CDEvents, and we might not ever need it. I think I must admit that we don't use it too extensively in IFE either, all those fields.
Sometimes we use it, so I would say it could be good.
Okay.
Track back who done it.
Yeah, so if it should be source or some other property saying who did it, who created the event, but anyway, where it comes from, yeah, that's fine.
But as I said, there it describes the central event. So you're using the event, you should be able to pinpoint the instance as an element at least.
Right.
Okay, so I guess maybe similar to the subject, we could have like a source object in the CDEvents spec, and then some ID of that object that is also what we use as source ID at Cloud Events level. Okay, but would it make sense to move these maybe to remove it from 0.1 milestone, and it's something we can work on in parallel? Or do you think it's something that we definitely need for 0.1?
I think we could postpone it. I mean, it shouldn't be the most urgent field to provide in the spec. It says that if we add it, if we change it to an object from a string later on, it will be non-backwards compatible. But we are aware that we will have such changes eventually before we reach 1.0 at least. So that shouldn't hinder us.
Okay, yeah, I will drop it for the mice from the milestone then for now. And we can continue a discussion in parallel.
One question, line number 7 there, expand the root spec document. It says the status is done, but the issue is still open.
That's a very good question. Yeah, I'll go through those marked as done and make sure they're not open anymore. Thanks. I didn't realize that. Hello?
Yep.
Yep.
We're still on.
Hello.
Okay, you don't hear us anymore? Hello.
I can hear you now. Sorry.
Okay.
More or less.
More or less. Okay. No, but it's fine. You go through those issues and see what's done.
Yeah, now. So for backward compatibility strategies, I think this is in progress. It's almost done. We have that experiment about binary mode, which we agreed we're not going to do. So I need to finish refreshing the spec based on that, and specify the data field so that we can have extra vendor specific data in there in that payload. Yeah, that's a to-do item on my side. But yeah, I'll continue to progress on this one. For versioning strategies, this is still open. So we need to basically, we need to agree whether how to at least document how to do versioning. So we have an overall spec version, and I think we said we probably want to have individual event versions as well. So we just need to expand on this a bit and put it in the spec so that we have a clear versioning strategy. I think this would be nice to have for 0.1 when we make initial release. Maybe not mandatory because it will be anyways a alpha really kind of release or something that we don't guarantee backward compatibility on. But yeah, I don't know, any thoughts on this one?
I think I agree. It would be very good to have it, but it shouldn't maybe delay the release. But if someone is interested in describing this and working on it, it would be very good, I think. So let's keep it. Could we mark them somehow for potential leftovers? Or?
But I guess you need some kind of version policy or strategy or something. What is open1 and
yeah,
how do you?
We need to state what open1 means at least.
Yeah.
Somehow. But maybe individual event versions might not need to be documented at this stage if we cannot make it.
Yeah, so we do have the version in the spec documented. So would that be then enough for initial support, you think?
I guess it doesn't have to be big, but it's some kind of statement that we version open1 is the version of the whole spec and all the events. So basically, if you change an event or the format of the event, we will need to release a new version of the spec or something in that matter, so you know what it means.
Yeah, and also it makes it easier for the SDKs. If they should be compatible with a certain version of the spec, we need to be clear on what it means so the SDKs can follow the versions of the spec. So we cannot make any updates to 0.1 spec version without calling it 0.2 if we expect the SDKs to understand them and so on.
Yeah.
Okay.
It ties into the
So we-
backwards compatibility discussion as well, of course, a bit. What if yeah. Anyway, yeah. Let's try to elaborate. Yeah.
Okay. Did anyone want to take a shot at this one? Feel free to assign yourself.
Let's see.
Then
Yeah, that's a documentation thing mostly, I would say. It's also good to have these abbreviations. It's when we talk about events, they are quite long, some of them, and it might be easier, at least when you draw pictures, if you would draw pictures with the events, to have abbreviations to use, and also maybe in some fluent text somewhere, maybe. It's not, I shouldn't say it's mandatory for the release either. But at the same time, it shouldn't be a big thing to do it either. So.
Sure.
Do you think it's valuable to have it?
Yeah, I mean, names are quite long, so I think having, I see like diagrams, like you mentioned, is probably one of the main use cases. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that something you would like to work on, Emil, you think? Or?
I can make an attempt. I already assigned it to me there, so I can make an attempt on it. So. But maybe that shouldn't be my main focus, because it shouldn't be the most important thing to do anyway. But yeah, I can keep it on my list.
Okay, well, we can decide when we get closer to to release whether we want to, if it's whether we keep it in the milestone or not. Okay, the next one is consider taking advantage of this list of task step and qualifying event types. I think we discussed this. If I remember correctly, we agreed that we should at least document that we intend to align with this, but it will not necessarily happen for the 0.1.
Yeah.
It's a small documentation item for now, at least for the 0.1 part. Yeah. We need someone to do it, but I think it's small enough. It doesn't worry me for the spec, for the scope of the 0.1. All right. Next, we go to the proof of concepts. So the DORA metric.
Yes, just to mention, there is some discussion, or has been some discussion during the summer about this reference architecture. And in that work, I know that at least Tracy Reagan rose the issue about that we might not be aligned all over different CDF working groups. So, I mean, we have the vocabulary initiative in SIG-INTROP, and we have this spec in our repositories, and then there is the reference architecture, which is somehow also quite related now to vocabulary and how we set up things and call things. So yes, just as a heads up, we might need to be more aligned amongst the different working groups in CDF, where this vocabulary is one important part, of course.
Yeah, I definitely agree. At least that's, I mean, we can align existing terms over time, but at least when we pick new terminology, we can, when we do add new fields, we can make sure that we use terminology that is consistent with the other groups. Right. terms of proof of concepts, so I'm doing some slow progress in the DORA metric proof of concept. Yes, the work on the Golang SDK I've been doing was part of that. So now that I have initial version of the SDK, you can hopefully make some more progress there. Yeah, I don't have many more updates really on that.
How was it? There was some person in the CDCon, right? On the CDEvents Community Summit Day, which was interested in contributing to the DORA metrics, wasn't there?
Yes.
That person somehow working also helping out on this or showing some more interest, or I'm not sure who it was.
No, not yet. I reached out to him, but then there was no more follow-up. But I need to reach out again and see whether we can collaborate further.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, for the GitHub to CD event translation. I'm tempted to say we should remove it from the scope of the 0.1.
What does it mean? Was it GitHub Actions or was it more GitHub Webhooks? Or what?
No, the idea was to have something that translates a GitHub webhook into CD event, which I think is something that I'm planning to work on a bit for the DORA metrics. If I'm getting webhooks from GitHub, or another alternative there would be to use Git, for instance. I started looking into that. Yeah, just also based on some previous discussion, maybe it's good to try and not include things that are too vendor specific in the scope for our first release.
I'm thinking more generally when it comes to proof of concepts and whether they should be part of the release or not really. Isn't it more so that we actually want some kind of reference implementation as part of the release? And well, a proof of concept could of course be such a reference implementation, but I guess if we would have a reference implementation, it should also follow the spec and be updated whenever new things come into the spec. The proof of concept might not need to be updated all the time. It could be a one shot maybe. Or do we handle the current POC that we have, which we have already also added Spinnaker to nowadays, as such a reference implementation? Really?
No, I think that's a very good point, Emil. Yeah, so I mean, the proof of concept is, I think it's what drives development on the spec, but I don't think it's in itself is really a reference implementation. So maybe what I could do is to update some of the issues in the core spec, especially the bucket, expand the bucket spec one, to mention that we should develop the spec enough to support the requirement of these proof of concepts. And then remove the proof of concept themselves from the scope of the release.
Yeah, I think so. That would make more sense to me, at least.
At least the scope of the spec would be more focused. So it's nice to have like reference implications or proof of concepts to go along with it. But the question is, do they need to be a part of the spec as such, or could it be freestanding? Because that also is basically another question when it comes to the SDKs. If we include them in the spec, is it so that next time we release a 0.2, that we need to update all the SDKs before we can release a new spec version?
Yeah, that's a good point. But at least for this initial release, I think having an initial version of the SDKs, it's important to really make sure that this is usable. But yeah, when we do 0.2, I think we could have like a 0.1 spec milestone and an overall, sorry, a 0.2 spec milestone and maybe an overall 0.2 milestone, which includes the SDK. So we would then first make a 0.2 version of the spec, and then in parallel we would work on the SDKs, but the SDKs would be released maybe shortly after the spec is released, because, well, the spec needs to be finalized first.
Yeah, of course, and it could also be so that some SDKs might only support up to a certain level, and we more or less stop supporting them, or we don't intend to continue supporting them, maybe, or some SDKs are more important than others, and therefore we prioritize those and release those before the other ones or whatever. We don't need to release them all in a bunch, maybe. Even though it's good, of course, as soon as we have a new spec to have SDKs supporting it as well, but doesn't maybe need to be a sharp dependency there.
Yeah.
Maybe
So-
let us subject. I see it's 4 minutes left.
Oh,
Yeah.
Brad, you've been pretty quiet. Do you have anything to say, or questions or anything?
Just observing, really, just looking at all the work that's going on, and yeah, it all looks great though. I'm happy to help out where required as well.
are there some areas where you think you see already now that you could help out and contribute towards the 0.1 release in the list we saw?
Yeah, I mean,
release list.
I could also do a bit of wood chopping. So a lot of the things are related to the release. Maybe there's little things around that don't necessarily have to be to the release, or, you know, like you mentioned, CI pipelines for the Go, and I could probably do a bit of that stuff as well if you want. Or any Golang, or yeah, anything really.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be great.
Just let me know if there's anything in particular that you want done.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to have a go setting up a unit test for, you mean the GitHub action, sorry, the GitHub action for the Go SDK unit test? Yeah, sure. That'd be brilliant.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sure.
I can create an issue on GitHub if you want, so you can pick it up.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thanks everyone then, and sorry about the internet issues on my side.
All good.
Andrea, I added the milestone link there in the end of the agenda as well. See, it doesn't really conform to the release view. There are at least some things in the milestone list which are not visible in the release list. How is that really working in GitHub? I don't really know, but seems to be some discrepancy there.
Yeah, so the milestone, so one thing is the milestone, and the other thing is the project. So the project allows you to have this view where you can, like the one that we have for the project, with the status and the areas.
Not everything from the milestone comes in here, it seems.
Yeah. Usually the milestone is used more for like code type of things. But yeah, I could go and set the milestone on the other issues as well.
I was more thinking the other way around, that things in the milestone doesn't show up in this list, and then we didn't really talk about it, for example, now today. But there's one at least, well, which did I see?
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
So the one I pasted in the chat now is visible in the milestone list, but not in the SDK list, as far as I could see. Sorry, not in the release. I think that one is in the milestone, but not in the project.
Yeah, because you need to set the project there,
it's
so
not
it's
set, so the project is not set on this, and I'm just afraid that we miss things if we forget things. It seems these are two separate in GitHub, so it might be that we forget things if we just put the milestone on, right?
Yeah. So I guess this is a sub item to completing the spec, but yeah, let me add it to the project. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So now it shows up in the release, but it's still not maybe in the 0.1 board. Where is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're over time now, so maybe we should stop. I just saw it. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. And thanks, everyone. Until next time.
Thank you. Talk
Thanks,
to you.
everyone.
Good job.
See you.
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Bye.